Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima, and I'm here checking out Neverending Nightmares by, did that say Infinitop? Infiniloop? It says something, and I have no bloody idea. Apparently this game was made based around the creator's experiences with depression, which was a little bit strange to read, but anyway, we'll just go have a look through first. You can turn subtitles on, although there's not much speech, but thankfully all your typical menus are there. Help is just your controls, and there aren't that many, so it's kind of surprising that they even need to tell you all that, but oh well, and you've got all that stuff there, and there is cross-save with the PlayStation 4 version, so with that said, let's get into it. So, the game's a branching narrative, more or less. You can do all sorts of different actions in order to get into a new nightmare, which is weird because I just finished this Insanity bit, and to get from that to that, it's an entirely different set of circumstances than I was expecting. But anyway, we'll just continue, and we're at childish beginnings. The game's loading time is actually, thankfully, quite short, so we'll just go have a look around. Thankfully, this game does not seem to be making my capture kit throw up all over itself. It tends to do that a lot, but thankfully, not this time. So, Neverending Nightmares is a lot like that game Home, if you remember that. There's not that much to it in the way of actual mechanics. You wander around with the movement keys, obviously, and you press a button to interact with stuff. You can tell what you're supposed to interact with quite well, actually, next to the art style, because it's colored. The only thing you really can't interact with is stuff that's covered in blood, and that becomes pretty obvious after the first few minutes. So, it never gets entirely confusing about what exactly you can and can't interact with. I don't want to stay in the dark for too long. At least I don't think I do. Oh no, I think it's fine here. I think that's just an art style thing, but yeah, so there's really not that much in the way of interaction, so it reminds me a lot of excuse me. It reminds me a lot of Home in the way it did things, where, well, Home was a bit of a narrative told via text boxes and stuff. This game doesn't really have an overarching narrative at all, which is a little strange, but then again, the game's called Neverending Nightmares, and it literally doesn't make any sense. So, to be fair, I won't hold that against the game, because that's definitely not what it's going for, at least as far as I can tell. So anyway, the main idea is you're wandering around what's basically a house, and you're looking for basically a way out. Because it sure doesn't look like there is one when you start off, but, you know, that's what a nightmare is. It looks like it's never going to end, and then it just, you know, you wake up and it ends. And except in this game, whenever you wake up from the nightmare, aka either you die or, well, you die, but in a completely different and somewhat contextual way, you wake up in a different bed, or in the same bed, depending on what kills you. And you have to wander throughout these halls, these somewhat creepy halls. It's mainly helped out by the sound design, but oh dear, what was that? I hope that wasn't something that was going to try and kill me, because those tend to pop up a lot sometimes. But yeah, you do have to wander around these halls trying to find your way out and trying not to die in the process. So, the game's atmosphere is actually really creepy, I'll give it that. There's a lot of unknowns. Everything looks alien and foreign, even though you can easily tell what it actually is. And I really do like the art style for that. It's kind of neat. The one problem with the atmosphere, though, is that there's a lot of jump scares, which I've found to be a bit annoying. Like, there are some enemies that'll just, you know, they'll wander in off the side of the screen. You can hear them coming, and it's not like they're a surprise at all. However, there are parts where, like, say, a bloody hand will show up, or a hand will reach out of a door, or something like that. It won't hurt you, it'll just scare you, and it's kind of frustrating, honestly, because the theme of the game, including its sound design, is really helped out by the art style. It's just unfortunate that there's so many jump scares, because it really takes away from the game's horror atmosphere. Like, I get he's trying to scare you, and then he's trying to make out that the nightmares aren't exactly something that, are predictable, or, you know, not like they won't try to scare you out of nowhere. It's just, again, it's just a little bit disappointing, honestly, that the game is focused on jump scares as much as it is. There are some, like, really I just went in a complete circle, didn't I? I'm about to get onto that. But yeah, the game itself is still pretty good at maintaining a creepy atmosphere, more or less. As I just found out, though, and as I have noticed before, the game is a fair bit maze-like. There's no map or no real way to tell where you've been before unless you're really paying attention to what's on the walls or something. And they do tend to... What the hell? Oh shit, I better run for it. Because this is what happens when you get stuck in the dark. Yep.
Finally, you're awake. You gotta check out what I found. Follow me.
That happened. I'm not entirely sure what the point of that was, but okay. So, yeah, as I was saying before, well then again, of course I'm not sure what the point is. That's the whole point. But anyway, the game is kind of maze-like. You can get a little bit lost. Thankfully, it is a little bit easy to tell where or not you've been after a while just by wandering around and all that. And then everything's colored, right? So if you can interact with something, it's got a color on it. So it's kind of easy to tell where you've been and where you're going after a while. It can just be a bit maze-like to start with, which is a little annoying. Something else that's annoying is that the game's sprint function, because not only do you barely move any faster, your character starts breathing really heavily after only a few seconds. He's more out of shape than me, which is kind of amazing, but then again, might be the same point with the nightmares, I don't know. There is some weird shit in this game too. There's well, there's a bunch of weird kinds of enemies. Like, there's the baby man, which is even weirder than it sounds, trust me on this. And there's all sorts of weird kinds of enemies and things that you come across. Admittedly, it's actually pretty cool, more or less. Like, oh, it's a maze. See, you can't even follow her. I'll give the game points for something, though. I played it for about an hour. Well, most of the hour that I played it for anyway, with my good headphones. They're my, like, $150-something headphones, because I need a good pair of headphones from time to time. And it's got this really well-implemented surround sound. It's actually really nice. And especially when you come across some of the more... I don't want to say terrifying scenes, but some of the more horrific scenes. Like, there's a scene early on where you claw your own veins out with your own fingers. And Jesus Christ, it's horrifying and the sound is even worse. So, even though he relies on jump scares a fair bit in order to get the point across, there are some legitimately terrifying moments in this game. It actually made me cringe and... I gotta run? Okay. Whoop, dead possum. Is that a possum? Probably. That is some pretty... It is a pretty untantalizing art, I gotta say. I do like that the game changes the rules a bit, though. Like, you'll end up doing different things every area you come through. I mean, the same basic gameplay loop is the same. Wander through, figure out what you gotta do to get to the next bit. But at the same time, you're constantly moving locations, you're constantly changing enemies, you're constantly changing circumstances. So, the game itself doesn't actually stay to be that boring every now and again. Because you're always doing something new. Like, sometimes horror games tend to bore me, but this game's done pretty good, mainly because it just keeps the variety up, more or less. It always gives me new things to wonder about. Or wonder about, I should say, not wonder. But, yeah, it actually does a pretty good job of that, too. And the performance of the game itself, as well, has actually been fine. Like, I haven't noticed any frame rate drops, I haven't noticed anything like that. The vertical lines can get a bit weird, because I think the game's got a little bit of a VSync issue, where sometimes it'll, when you're moving up and down, or the screen zooming in and out, you'll end up seeing some weird vertical lines because of the way the art style's done, because you can see there's like a ton of vertical lines. It's interesting. Oh, it's the graveyard. We've been here before, so... I'm coming, I'm coming. You're not even alive. I tell you, if this is what having depression is like, for the love of God, I do not want to have this, guys. I don't want to have depression at all. Like, Jesus Christ. Mausoleum. See why I don't sprint? I usually just walk, because that breathing gets really annoying. It really does. God, the sound design in this game is great. If you're gonna play this game, get a good pair of headphones. Don't get, like, cheapo, $5 Apple shit. Don't get that. Get a decent pair of headphones and put them on and play the game with it, because it's actually that impressive. And the fact that there's, like, multiple endings to everything. Well, not multiple endings, but, excuse me. Not multiple endings, but multiple paths that you can go on, so that there's more reasons to go back and play through again is actually pretty neat. Although, all you'd have to really do is select the chapter and play through the chapter that has the, different paths. But, yeah. While there isn't much game to it, more or less, this is actually pretty interesting. Oh God, she's dead. Okay. This happens a lot. And we're awake again. And chances are... Whoa! Okay, I wasn't expecting that. Okay, that caught me a bit off guard. Another one of those freaky doll things. But alright. Let's continue on outwards. If he removed a bunch of the jump scares, this would actually be really, really good. Because I don't really see the point of jump scares in a game that's trying to have such a... what's the word I'm looking for? Such a consistently... spooky atmosphere. There is a difference between spooky, scary, and creepy. But I'll be damned if I don't know what it is. But... it's... again, it's not really that much of a game. There's not really that much to do except wander around and maybe try and do a couple of stealth sections and try and avoid things, because they will kill you. But, I mean... really... as an experience more than an actual game, like a interactive art exhibit, like, I would prefer some games become interactive art exhibits, like freaking Proteus and Firewatch maybe, and this would work. It's not much as a game, but as a little, like, freaky horror experience based on someone's real-life experiences, this is actually pretty damn neat. And to say I'm not enjoying it, despite the fact... to say that I'm not enjoying it because it's not a game would be a lie, but... oh god, it's one of these things again. I hate these things, because you basically have to stealth past them. Can't get too close. So you just have to wander right past them. And if you run near them, it's game over pretty much immediately, which is a little annoying. It's very interesting as a experience, as a look into someone's psyche, as a look at art and ways you can do art. Because, I mean, this is just a bunch of lines for the most part, but it really does add something to the atmosphere, especially that, like, thick haze around everything, like those massive amounts of lines near the bottom of the screen right now. At the beginning, I felt like it didn't add much, but really, as I went to continue playing the game, I actually started to appreciate it more than I expected to at first. It's a really interesting way of doing the art style. Really does give a sense of, what's the word I'm looking for? Just a sense of melancholy to the whole thing. The game's lighting is actually pretty good too, or what little there is of it. Like, see? The shadows are, like, dynamic. It's pretty impressive. Ugh. I hate those dolls. See what I mean by being a little bit maze-like? Generally, I just have to hope I'm going to the right place. So yeah, it keeps finding new ways to be spooky. It has a couple of jump scares that I don't like, but at the same time, the when it generally goes for the more subtle kinds of horror, it's, religious references. That's something. Oh, well, yeah, I did see a Bible at the beginning with, like, the Psalm, open at the Psalms, and it was in Latin, which is a little strange, but okay, I'll deal with it. But yeah, the game's, what's the word I'm looking for? Just the general, subtle horror is a lot better than the game's attempts at jump scares, I gotta say. It's got a really nice art style. They've done a really good job with the sound. Like, a really good job with the sound. And it remains interesting. It remains very interesting. Speaking of interesting, how am I going to get through that door? I'm just going to wait for him to walk away. That's... Admittedly, that was pretty obvious. Thankfully, if I had the animation going, he doesn't see me. Chances are I'm not going to be able to walk out of this room, though. Thankfully, there is another door. So yeah, Neverending Nightmares is pretty neat. Blink. How long can you stare at that without it wanting to kill you? I don't know. It's a shame. It seems like something you could do. In fact, there are a lot of things this game could do to be interesting. Like, of course, it's called Neverending Nightmares, so imagine if the game literally just kept going on and on forever. That would be freaking neat. Like, oh god! The doll was moving. I'm not trying to be PewDiePie here, but that actually kind of caught me off guard. But, alright. Stiff upper lip. They don't call us the descendants of the British for nothing. Just listen to that music, man. Good lord. Right, outside, well, out here I go, I should say. The game also makes use of surround sound pretty well as well, so if you've got something off screen that might stand a chance of killing you, you'll probably be able to hear it if you've got good headphones on, so yeah. I haven't actually tried it with the Vita speakers. I imagine it won't do too badly, but I mean, headphones will definitely help you out a lot more in this game. Why is there a picture of a skull on the wall? Man, I tell you, this guy's nightmares are fucked up, I tell you. Can I just keep going? Like, God, it really is never ending, isn't it? The game does tend to draw on for a while. You do think you're going in loops, so... Oh, hello. Do you kill me? Yes! Yes, you do! Quite horribly, in fact. Alright, you know what? I think this is a good point to stop, because if I play for too long, I'll show too much of the game off. There are also pretty frequent checkpoints, so pretty much any time you have a chance to die, it'll put you back really close to it, so... A little bit strange, considering the context of the game, but at the same time, because, I mean, think about it. Nightmares don't have checkpoints, but, you know... I actually really like it. It's not a game, like, not really, but... As just a little interactive horror exhibit thing based off someone's nightmares and based off someone's real-life depression... It's actually really interesting, and if you like this sort of thing, well, go for it. I'm definitely interested in it. So, I'm not usually interested in this sort of thing, but he does a decent job with keeping me interested with just how creepy it all is. So, yeah, this will be out... actually, it'll be out by the time you see this video now that I think about it. But, yeah, it's a pretty good thing. I mean, if you're into this sort of thing, why not? If you like Lone Survivor or Home, this would probably be a great thing to dig into. The Vita's getting a lot of these, like, horror games, isn't it? Not even a game, like horror experiments, horror displays, horror things, yeah. I don't really know exactly what to call it, but there you go. So, this has been Blue Maxima, checking out Neverending Nightmares. It's neat. It's really neat, and I quite like it. I'll see you all next time.